us introduce our first speaker. Chris Cameron, everybody. We actually brought Chris as a speaker from this meetup. So we met from here. He put his hand up as somebody who wanted to speak, and we allowed? I don't know if allowed is the right word. We were blessed enough to have his skills here. So if you feel the same, let us know. We love to have speakers from our crowd, and we would highly encourage you to do that. With that in mind, Chris, why don't you take it away? He's going to tell us about executing on the potential of AI and leveraging for business impact. Chris Cameron, everybody.
It has to be green. Okay. Thank you guys very much. It's good to be here. All of those long words say, how are we going to sell this stuff? So what I'm actually going to cover today is really for those of you who have to sell the value of AI to the world, and for the solution architects of the world. Those are the next guys who come in and go, yeah, what the sales guy said, it's kind of right, but it's more like this. And then if you're the engineer, you know those times after engineering and you go by and they go, why didn't they buy this? This stuff is so cool. What the hell is wrong with these people? Stay with us. I'm going to tell you why. So that's what we're going to cover today as we go through this. And I've got a little stories. I'm not going to go into my background because we'll get that as we go through, because I get to tell you some good IBM errors as we go through. But let's talk first to begin with. Let's look at the point of view. What is our point of view today? How many articles did you guys read this week where one said AI is going to save us and it's driving the economy, it's going to be amazing? And then you got the story right underneath it that said, yeah, AI is not delivering what it was supposed to. Well, that's the times we're living in. Everything is schizophrenic. However, this article, the reason I put it up, what's helpful is the numbers. When we get schizophrenic, look at the numbers. There are 200,000 companies, actually more than 200,000 companies in the United States with revenues of 50 million or above. And we've only got the leaders running it. The early adopters are running this. And the early adopters are selling the hell out of it. And the worst thing is, the early adopters, once you find something that makes you a differentiator, don't tell anybody. They're sitting on it. So what we're sitting here is, if we're really going to have AI take off and do something more, it's got to go down market. And right now, it's only hitting the big guys. What we're going to discuss today as we go through this is how to go down market with it. And you're going to leave with a paradigm that you can use with your clients, whether you're an engineer, an architect, or a salesperson, to go, how can I let my customer see themselves in AI? So let's look at it from this standpoint. Use cases, point number one. Anybody got a shortage of use cases? Are you kidding me? Every time I talk to somebody, they got like 97 use cases, but they can't get here from here, right? Because they start with this. One question, well, if a human can do it, a machine's got to do it. Because those of us here know there is no intelligence in artificial, it's math. It's running all the math models simultaneously and telling you what you need to do. Now, here's a tip. Don't tell that to the customer, because that just went right over their head, right? Keep that one in your pocket, because that's how you win their trust. But here's what's happening as you look in that. There are two main things you need to watch for when considering this question. Number one, can the customer deliver the data to analyze and create relevant AI? This is usually what it comes down to. Now, I worked in the chemical industry as the EDI networker, right? For those of you who don't have this gray hair, you don't even know what EDI is. It's okay. EDI is the data running underneath all this stuff, right? Now, in the chemical industry, those guys always stop their projects because they go, my master data is bad. Now, for those of you who don't have this, that meant SAP, right? My master data is bad. Well, actually, your master data is always bad. It's never good, right? So, but AI is going to be a way to say, I have got to find a way to get my data. What AI has allowed us to do that you never could do in your old data integration days is your data can be imprecise because you can synthesize elements of it. So that's the first thing you've got to understand with that. Don't let your customer go put you in that box. The second thing is to give the value of AI is what happens after analysis. That's where the cost driver is. Watch this. So these are JP Morgan telling us how much we can use AI. But look at the bottom right-hand corner here. That's really what AI does. It analyzes. Does a really good job of analyzing. It's cool. But they also say all these red boxes. AI is amazing. It can help you. AI tools for our pipelines. Yes, it can. It can tell us about MRO problems. Anybody know what MRO is? Are we all together in MRO? Maintenance, repair, and overhaul? That's what happens. AI can tell us when that pipeline is going to fail. Now, in the chemical business, you will have 7 trucks the size of your house and 14 guys out there to go fix it. AI told you something was going to break, but where's the cost? And they're going to be out there for 3 days, and you're going to shut down that pipeline. And that pipeline flows at a rate of about $700,000 a minute. We're going to close that down for 3 days, even on preventative maintenance. And it continues. As you go through here, I come from supply chain efficiency, right? I loved AI and supply chain efficiency until AI told you to, oh, not a problem, change it from this ship to that ship. AI can't do that. We tried it at IBM. We had to sell the company we formed. We sold it to Maersk, suckers. They had to close it down. So, as we look at that, and it continues down the way, we heard last time we were here about AI and marketing efficiency. But I tell you, the last job I was at, I ran a $70 million construction e-commerce company. When my marketing person showed me up and they tried to give me some AI stuff, I was like, I'm done with you. I don't want to talk to you. So just try this. Yet these are the business cases we're given. Generate client portfolio reviews. Let me just see a show of hands of people who have this in their hair. So you're older and you've got a ton of money in your life there. Not as much as you want, but you've got more than enough. And they want to send you a report and don't want to talk to you on the phone. You're out. So this is what really drives it. When companies' costs are between 30 and 70% of their costs are the labor behind it, then you can't just sell them that AI calculates faster. So what do we do? So what kind of value propositions do we look at? So right now, 80% of non-adopters say they just can't see themselves in AI because they don't understand how to make it applicable to their business. So what do we do to help them from our various positions? So this is a study from Microsoft here. And yes, for those who did the math, I had to go back and look at the numbers. Yes, that adds up to more than 100% because some people are doing multiple AI projects where they put it together. But look at where they're putting it. 47% of it goes into efficiency. 57% of it goes into customer service assistance. How many people are happy with their service provider and that lovely automated voice control system? Right? They may want to rethink exit paths off of that, but it has lifted labor out of it. They have gotten rid of a lot of it. And then you look down at the bottom one with the 36%, the image and the content generation. Yes, the ability to generate all of that has definitely helped. So what are we going to do to show value? Here's where we'll go. And then we're moving to numbers because the customer wants to see the numbers quickly. So in the AI, we want to look at the time savings delivered by AI analysis in these buckets, doing the work to find risks. So there I was running a $70 million construction e-commerce company. How many data scientists did I have? Now, a data scientist for our guys was who ran reports out of SAP. I was already thin. It's not like you can cut that guy. And when you bring in an AI project, I'm probably going to need another one back. And that's before I went to corporate to get my guy who ran me reports out of SAP. So we need to look at how to help find risks very quickly. The second one is going to be frame the AI proposition by addressing the loss value and how you can enable the current staff to solve for that loss and scale. So what does that mean? How can I have the same amount of people in year 2 do twice as much work without killing them? Now, that's where you're headed. If you can get that to your customer and tell your customer, I'm going to be able to deliver that to you within a quarter or 2 quarters, you're golden. What happens is usually we come in with AI that's going to do amazing things, and it's going to take 2 years. So when I was at IBM, I said that to the CEO of the Colgate-Palmolive. He said, thanks, I think we're done here. Loved the idea. It was amazing what we were going to do. But let's talk about this. I went to work at IBM for a while because they had internally developed a Watson tool that generated tremendous value. What it basically did was help you look at your risk in your supply chain, put in your marketing campaigns, put in your sales campaigns, put in your demand planning, your inventory planning, and it would actually alert us if something happens somewhere in the supply chain and relate what purchase orders and sales orders were going to be affected. It was really good. Here's what they didn't tell me when they started. It took them 5 years to build it. Now, this is before large language models. So you can condense the time now, but AI is condensing the time. Your customers are going to see payoff faster. So here's what happened is AI, I mean, it was great. This Watson thing was really good, and it still is. Now, they've gotten a lot better at IBM when I talk to buddies over there. But it did great stuff. I'd lose social listening to predict what was going to happen to sales. S&OP modeling was perfect. But here's the last one right there. It required custom workflow and overemphasized data requirements. So they let Watson run it. You fed it with your data. It put it out and told you what was wrong. But you had to have the good data to give it to Watson to tell it what to do. IBM lost that business. It lost it to this group of guys. Blue Yonder, O9 Solutions, Kinaxis, who have lesser AI. Their AI is a chatbot. It's all linear regression models to model all of their inventory. But you know where it is? It's in a workflow tool. And the chatbot comes up and talks to their individuals, and efficiencies are gained. They can now run 2x times the revenue through the system with the same number of people. That's what was happening. And it doesn't take 2 years to build. You can be up and running with your first modules in Blue Yonder, the ones I've looked at, in about 90 days. It's pretty fast. That's where things looked at. And when this looks like in the numbers, it's going to look like this. So this is an actual business case. Numbers are doctored, et cetera. But what you're looking for is going to be right here in this section. All the other numbers up top are about how to train it, et cetera, what we're doing. But here's what happens, and this is the way you start the conversation with your customer, because in every industry, there's always these numbers right here. Lost sales, inventory spend decrease, whatever it might be, your industries have these little KPIs. If you start there, and this is one for supply chain logistics, obviously, that says, look, if you do this right, put it in place, you will not miss sales. You'll improve sales by at least 5% by capturing more because you have the material. So we put together a model on this one and said, we're just going to do it by 2 just to start it out. Looking down, inventory spend decrease, you'll have to carry in as much inventory. We can cycle that faster for you. Logistics savings, that means how much I paid truckers. I can reduce my cost by doing more effective planning. We're just going to take 5%. When we add those up, there's not a year that this thing costs more than it takes to build, even in year one. This customer is going to spend a heck of a lot less than this, about $2 million to pull out 12 million. That's what they're looking for. Can we do it fast? Having cool AI at IBM did not deliver that as fast as Blue Yonder, which everybody knows Blue Yonder came out of Dallas, right? Little company called i2. They were making models there before I had gray hair. That's how long it's been around. So that's under the covers. They beat the big bad AI with cheap linear regression on faster computers. It's a beautiful thing, and the customer buys it. Right now, you'll find that Blue Yonder is rated best in AI for supply chain. There's very little AI in it. That is what, if you can do that at that point and go into your customer and say, let's just talk about your business and the business you work in. You put these numbers up, then at that point, you move into what's in the bottom. Your last step to a scope of work is a workflow design session. Now you get into the meat because you came in and proved that you could deliver ROI, how you could deliver it in a broad definition. And then from there, you can get down to find out what's under the covers. Then you learn your operator interactions, your KPIs, and your design constraints. At that point, you start to help the customer very quickly. So how can everybody do this? Here's the last slide. And this is how you can take this and walk away with a paradigm, a framework. This framework works everywhere I've ever taken it. Here's why. It's a very simple one. Everybody wants the operational prediction. We want generative AI that's going to tell us what's going to happen. But to get there, we start with daily efficiency. Then we move into risk, identification, and resolution. Now, when I say risk, that could be sales risk. It could be product success risk. It could be supply chain risk. There's any kind of risk, because what's the business of business? Don't screw it up. So if you start there, here's how it works. Because what you're going to be able to do with this framework is lay it over the client's roadmap to AI deliveries. It's a very simple conversation. Oh, daily efficiency. On your order to cash side, what is your no-touch order rate? That's old-fashioned EDI for it was electronically sent by Walmart. If you know that, you know they've already a step ahead in their daily efficiency, and you have a pile of data from which to analyze with AI what risk can be identified. And now you start having that conversation with your customer. How many report people do you have to try and figure out if you have a risk? Most companies got a lot more than I had at my small little company until you go down market. What you're going to be able to do is define or identify how mature the operations are in their use of data. When you start asking questions about a no-touch order, how many different people have to touch an order before it actually gets fulfilled to a customer? You're going to find out if those people are using data correctly. Your customer is driving it that way. And you're going to find out what data you have to be able to leverage up. You're going to identify the organizational changes that may match the maturity. So for example, if they have an order management team who's just there to watch orders that got errored out in queue, you immediately know how much that they have a large volume of orders going through, and they know what data to watch for. You now have someone who's moving up this maturity scale. And the further they move up to the maturity scale, you're going to find better quality data. You're also going to look at resolution methodologies and where they exist in the organization and what degree of tribalization can be assessed. That's nice MBA speak for how come every time I ask you who solves this, Bob is the answer? What if Bob goes on a vacation? So you want to find a couple more people who then go in and say, all right, we can help you try and figure out how to do the resolution. One of the things that was very interesting that IBM did have was resolution rooms. And they saved off every time they solved a supply chain problem, every time they solved a sales problem or a shortage problem. Then that way they classified them. Sound like AI now? We just classified it as to which one would go and what problem it matched. So as we identified problems, as Watson identified problems, it said, here's the last 7 times and how you solved it. Every time you put that feature in front of somebody, in front of a CEO, they loved it because all they heard was, I got rid of people. So lastly, if you can do this and start to walk through that roadmap on this paradigm, you're going to find that jewel customer. Those are the early adopters out there. The jewel customer that's ready to move up and to the right to operational prediction. And they're relatively efficient and they can identify risk and resolve it. At that point, you're able to plug into them. And this is where I'm next going to turn over to a solution architect. Because the way that this works effectively for the client is your salesperson bounces these ideas, goes in with a paradigm like this, has a conversation with the customer to get the ideas of what their pains are in each one of those, brings it back to their solution architect and says, can we do this? Can we do that? And you design a solution together. It's not the actual architecture or the actual engineering map. It's the architecture. Then the sales guy leaves the solution architect, if it's run properly, goes back and says what we agreed with the architect, right? Absolutely, right? We can do it, yes. And then that way you bring it back in. Now the solution architect has something to bring demonstrable value. And as the salesperson, you've now gotten them to trust on this magical thing called AI and how it's going to deliver within a quarter. So at this point, I think I've gone a little bit longer, but we had a few extra minutes, I think. Any additional questions before we flip it over to solution architecture? Come on up and you can get loaded up. Yes, sir. Oh, no, not you, Yeshwant. Anybody but Yeshwant?
I got to hold it. Here we go. I got
It's too late. I don't have a question as much as a general comment. I mean, great presentation, by the way. But I think you kind of briefly touched upon this, but a lot of companies I'm seeing are dismayed at finding out that they need to clean up their data first before they can get to the fun part of using AI, be it just the discriminative and predictive AI, which has gotten a lot more attention thanks to the focus on GenAI, or even to use GenAI. I mean, data cleanup and prep is the unglamorous, unsexy part of using AI. And a lot of CIOs and CEOs are just beginning to get that realization. And so that is where you see a lot of the fundamental disconnect between the hype and the reality. So just want to make that comment.
Absolutely true. And especially that opens up for the solution architect sales side of things to be able to develop workflows to capture that data and then help with the customer go, okay, I know you want to be up here, but we're going to have to start a little lower. But in X amount of time, we can get you halfway to the goal. Realistic roadmaps like that and defining those roadmaps, classic consulting, but it works. Then they can throttle that so that all the funding gets leveled in that way and comes out into the project. Any other questions? Well, that's sales in 20 minutes or however long we went. So happy hunting out there. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to talking with you guys down the road here.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Okay. While Sinicia sets up here, I'm just going to take a minute again to really emphasize how much of an impact you all can have as speakers. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we pulled Chris out of the crowd here, and I would highly encourage anybody else who feels like they've got content that they'd like to share